Hey YouTubers, it's me again, Spanky. Figured I'd make a video to let you guys know exactly how I lost my leg and the trials and tribulations that I went through. So just a fair warning before we get started, there are going to be some bloody and gruesome photos of what happened. Just so you know, if you have a weak stomach or just don't like to see those kind of things, go ahead and turn it off. But if you do, you have been fair warned. So, to start off, back in October of 2016, I had these deep tissue abscesses in my right calf, and they were quite painful. So I went to the doctor, and if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my list to make sure I keep everything in order. And these deep abscesses. So I went to the doctor, and he looked at them and he said, we need to do a biopsy. So they went in and they did a biopsy, and biopsy came back, and nothing came back. The biopsy was clean and clear. They couldn't figure out what it was. There was no bacteria, there was no fungal, there was no strep, no nothing. So it was a conundrum. I couldn't figure any reasoning for it. So life went on as normal. They ran some tests on it, petri dishes and all that. Well, in what was it, December, the site where they had done the biopsy, the actual incision site, began to become infected after they removed the sutures. So again, I went back to the doctor concerned, saying, hey, here's this site and now it's infected. And so he put me on some antibiotics, and the infection started to spread, and it got worse. So it just started growing and growing, and then they did a debridement, small debridement. They had to put me under, so it was a surgery, and hoping to cut out all the infection, and it didn't work. On January the 6th, it became gangrenous, and they had to do another debridement on the 8th of January, and they ended up removing 6.5 inches of muscle along with a bunch of tissue, because it had made a pocket underneath the tissue. And with that happening, it was quite painful, and they had hoped that they had gotten it all. They put a wound back on, and hoping that would help the healing process. Once the wound vac was removed, they found out that it had not helped any of the healing, that it had actually promoted more infection. So they had to go in once again on the 26th of January and do another debridement, another surgery. And it finally started looking up. Things started looking better. The flesh was pink and red, looking really well. So they went ahead and did a skin graft. They took some skin from my upper thigh and did a nice skin graft down there. Once that had started to take and started healing well, things started looking great. We were all positive and everything, but unfortunately on February 15th, 2 new spots showed up, actually side by side. Looked like 2 little black pimples on the front of my calf, right on the tibia, and they eventually started getting infected as well. So they started growing, and they did a small debridement in the office, and the wound itself started getting worse. The infection started growing, and once it started growing, it just kind of took over and eventually became gangrenous again. And they tried cutting it out in the office, and eventually decided once again we needed to go in and do surgery. So once again I went under the knife, and they did a huge debridement, where this time they had to expose my bone, my tibia, and with the tibia exposed, it was open to air and the infection even more, and it started drying out my bone and drying out the flesh around it and causing it to start to decay. So they did another surgical debridement, and the bone once again started getting infected and dying, and the tissue around it started dying. The infection started spreading even further, deeper into the muscle and tissue surrounding the bone, even under the bone. At this point I was in so much pain I couldn't even walk without the assistance of forearm crutches or help from friends. Luckily in the master bedroom, the bathroom is very close to my bed, so I could hobble to the bathroom. Otherwise I was unable to get anywhere. So I finally told the doctors I was done. I was seeing in total 6 different doctors, including an infectious disease doctor, a doctor for autoimmune disease, all these different specialists who were running tests like crazy. You name the test, they ran it, and every test came back negative. They couldn't figure it out. They were thinking autoimmune, they were thinking flesh-eating disease, they were thinking, some weird bacteria that I may have come in contact with, and I was afraid because I have 2 young children that, it may cross over to them, so I had kind of quarantined myself from them, and I didn't even want to get near them in fear that they may catch it, in fear that my wife may catch it. But it was not contagious, luckily. But and all the doctors I was seeing agreed that amputation was the best resort to keep it from coming further up my leg or traveling anywhere else. So they sent me to a surgeon who was supposed to do the surgery, and I went to him and I told him exactly what I wanted done, and he refused. He said, I'm not going to do your amputation, and if you choose not to do what I do, I'm going to blackball you. And his choice was to do this experimental calfskin graft. So reluctantly I went ahead and did it. I said, if this is going to work, let's try it. So we went ahead and did this one last debridement to do this calfskin graft, and they grafted this cow piece of hide to my wound, and just as I expected it, my infection ate the calf skin and ate more of my bone and flesh. one's this doctor, this